My thesis project is geofencing for small unmanned aerial systems in low altitude airspace. And so what that really means is, how do we take volumes of airspace, so GPS boundaries and altitudes, and divide up the space below where manned aviation flies right now. So this is the stuff that's immediately above your house and below the tops of skyscrapers. And so how do we take that airspace and safely confine drones to, not hit buildings and not fly over people they're not supposed to, and safely enforce their boundaries and keep them where they're supposed to be flying and away from where they're not. So away from airports, away from helicopters, and away from trees, probably, because trees will definitely take your drone out of the sky faster than anything else. And so specifically what I've been working on is looking at how do we define those volumes, and then how do we quickly determine whether we're inside or outside, which sounds like it should be a really simple problem, but once you start breaking it down into smaller and smaller pieces, you realize, there's a lot of little intricacies that we're not initially really looking at. And so one of the easier examples is if you have just a square, like a rectangle. If you have a rectangle that you want to keep your drone inside of, what you want to be able to do is that when you're flying towards one of your walls, you want to be able to stop the drone before you actually go through that wall, because for all you know, there's a building right there. And so figuring out how soon you have to start slowing it down or making it turn. And then once you make that turn, how do you hand control back to the pilot? You don't want to just turn off and assume that they know what they're doing. You have to be able to hand it off slowly so that at all times there's a safe control of the vehicle. And so the figuring out how to stop it before you hit the wall, and just figuring out, okay, there is a wall that's coming up. When do we start doing that, is something that I've really been focusing on lately with the project.